Molly snuck another question in here from Toronto. What are some of the memorable short title reigns or title changes for you? For example, when Jeff Hardy beat Triple H in 2001 on SmackDown to win the Intercontinental title, he lost it the following episode on Raw. You know, for me, it's Mankind beating The Rock to win the WWF title on Raw with the assist from Stone Cold. One of the most memorable title changes of all time. Still to this day, the loudest pop. At least I wasn't in the building, but watching it on television and the camera shaking and people losing their minds. The biggest pop of all time. And his reign only lasted, 3 weeks? You know, Foley once called himself the Bret Hart of transitional champions. I love that. Now, you're supposed to transition the title from one person to another, and his first 2 titles went right back to The Rock, so it's not entirely accurate to call it, a transitional run each time, but at no point were any of his 3 title reigns intended to push him as the top guy in the company. It was all done with the intent of getting the belt off of him as quickly as possible and onto the person that they actually wanted that belt on. What other ones? Andre beating Hogan live on NBC to win the world title, right? And then immediately surrendering the belt to Ted DiBiase. Doesn't get any shorter than that. That one's pretty high up on the list. Fucking 30 million people watched that one. Undertaker. Of course. It's a year after he debuted. Undertaker at Survivor Series beating Hulk Hogan to win the championship.
Oh, you got me, brother.
And then he lost it like a week later. Tuesday in Texas. Roddy Piper. He won the Intercontinental title at the Royal Rumble. That was very memorable. He had not won any championships in that company up to that point. And he didn't hold it for very long. He dropped it. It was a few months later, but he dropped it to Bret at WrestleMania. Kane, of course, his one-day title reign in 98. That one right there, that is top 3 of the most memorable short title reigns of all time. You got to include that. And I was just thinking about, the summer of 98. That summer was something else. I can remember the feeling of that summer. Man, the summer of 98 in wrestling, if you made a Mount Rushmore of wrestling summers, that one would be front and center. Summer of 98. Chris Jericho is another one, beating Triple H on Raw for the WWF title in 2000 and then having it taken away from him in the very next segment. That title change was fantastic. It blew the roof off the place. Jericho hadn't even been there a full year yet. I think there is something to be said for short title runs. I'm not talking about playing hot potato every week with the belts, but I do miss short title runs. There's just too much emphasis these days placed on the number of days that someone is champion for. They have become obsessed with records. So-and-so has been the champion for 1,000 days. She's the forever champion. This person's been champion for 500 days. The Judgment Day, they've been tag team champions for 430 days with 2 title defenses. It's fucking boring. 1 or 2 dominant people with long runs, fine. But my God, why does everyone need to have long title runs these days? Is the competition for these belts in these companies that bad that they have this many people going hundreds and hundreds of days as champion? Tommy from Georgia. Buy 2, rent 2, sell 2. Blade Runner Sting, Surfer Sting, Crow Sting, Joker Sting, VATO Sting, Grandpa Sting. Well, that is a very interesting question. Sorry, I had to. I saw my opening. I had to take it. So I got to buy 2, rent 2, and sell 2. Obviously, this one to me, though, is easy, though. You got to buy on Surfer Sting and Crow Sting. That's it. You got to buy on those 2. Those are still the 2 best versions of Sting. I'm going to rent Joker Sting. I know some people hated it. I was a fan of Joker Sting in TNA. And I'm going to rent on VATO Sting because that's a guy you don't want to fuck with. And then I'm going to sell on Blade Runner Sting and Grandpa Sting. Grandpa Sting is cool, but let's be honest here. Grandpa Sting, at this stage of the game, he's not going to be able to do what Surfer Sting did or Crow Sting did. So I got to sell on him. Mike from Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania. That's a new one. With Maxine Dupri's count-out win over Becky Lynch seeming to get a good reaction from fans, typically a count-out finish doesn't go over well, but it fit the story in this case. What are some of the best undesirable or fuck finishes ever? One of my favorites is when Finlay debuted on SmackDown in 2006 and he got disqualified for kicking too much ass. As for a match that ends in a draw, I would say Mark Briscoe against Jay Briscoe at Ring of Honor's 50th Festival, where both wrestlers beat the brakes off each other until neither one could get to their feet by the count of 10. You want to talk about great count-out wins. It doesn't get any better than Jon Moxley getting Yano'd in the G1. What was that, like 6 years ago? 7 years ago? That was a huge upset. Moxley's very first loss ever in New Japan, because he was on a roll, and it came at the hands of Toru Yano. Other men had felt the pain of losing to Yano, but on this night, it was Jon Moxley who learned what that pain truly felt like, and thus a meme was born. So that's a great one. What else? Okay, so this one here, this was not technically a DQ finish, since it was an Iron Man match. But if you remember the last fall in the Rock Triple H Iron Man match at Judgment Day in 2000, it's right there at the top for me. Shawn Michaels is the referee. He's knocked out. And the McMahon-Helmsley faction, they're kicking the crap out of The Rock. Undertaker debuts. He rides down to the ring. Debuts as the American Badass. Not he debuts. He debuts as the American Badass. And he wipes them all out. Only for Michaels to wake up in time to see Undertaker chokeslamming Triple H. Which means that Rock is disqualified and Triple H wins the title. I think it ended up being like 6 falls to 5. It was an all-timer of a finish, and it was an all-timer of a crowd reaction. I mean, I love that match. But technically, the deciding fall in that match was a disqualification. Kurt Angle, Stone Cold Steve Austin, SummerSlam 2001. Austin was throwing everything at this guy, and it wasn't working. So what did he do? He started cheating. And he started beating up referees and stunning referees and, ultimately, got himself disqualified. So I'm sure in the moment, like as I recall watching that show, it was a very frustrating finish. But for the story they were trying to tell there, it was actually quite great. Shawn Michaels against Triple H on Raw for the World Heavyweight title in 2003. It was one of those finishes where, both men's shoulders are down, but you don't know it at first. And he super kicks Triple H. He lands on top of him. And everybody in the building in San Antonio thought that Shawn pinned him. They play his music. It's great reaction. And Eric Bischoff, who had run in to, I think there was a ref bump, and then Bischoff, who was the GM, he ran out, counted the winning fall. But Bischoff just goes right past Michaels with the belt and gives it right back to Triple H. And it's like, well, take a look at the replay. And sure enough, like his shoulders were down. So I get a frustrating finish, but like they pulled it off great. That one stands out to me. John Cena, Randy Orton, No Way Out, 2008. We were talking about this a few months ago because I was wondering if they were going to do a variation of the same finish in their match at Backlash. But they had a match for the championship. I don't remember it being anything special. And Randy Orton, no matter what he does, he cannot put away John Cena. And Cena's squaring up, and Orton's down like on his knees, and Mike Chioda's the referee, and he's just like, he's standing kind of in between them. His hands are on his knees, and he's looking at Orton, he's looking at Cena. But he's kind of close to Orton, so you can kind of tell something's about to happen. And Orton just smacks him right in the face. Doesn't knock him out, but Chioda's like, what the fuck? And he disqualifies him. And when he calls for the bell, the crowd pops. Because, I mean, how can you not? It's genius. And he got a big smirk on his face because he knew he just retained his championship. He lost the match, but who fucking cares? He got to keep his belt. That's the kind of finish you could only get away with once every now and then. Like, you can't abuse a finish like that, but, looking at it, like, it was very clever, the way they did that. I also think of another Randy Orton match when he wrestled Christian, defended the World Heavyweight Championship against Christian at Money in the Bank in 2011. And the title could change hands in that match on a disqualification. So he hawked a big loogie right in Orton's face, and Orton just snapped and ended up kicking him. He punt kicked him in the dick. And he got himself disqualified and handed the title basically to Christian because that was the stipulation, that he could lose the championship by disqualification. And the crowd popped for it, even though Christian was the heel. And you got what otherwise would be a lame DQ finish in a pay-per-view match. They popped for it like you would think he was a babyface in the main event, winning the world championship for the first time. They loved it. So those are some of the ones that stand out to me. I'm sure there are others. You guys can chime in. Maybe you got your own favorites.